Imagine that just beneath a top-secret prison, in a place where no ordinary person has ever set foot, hid one of the most significant secrets of early Christianity. The discovery, which could change our understanding of the first centuries of the faith, was made by accident during routine construction work at Israel's Megiddo Prison. Originally, it was supposed to be just an expansion of a secure facility, but when the workers began digging, they stumbled upon something no one could have predicted. Hidden beneath a layer of earth and stone was an ancient mosaic floor created nearly 2,000 years ago. But what was a Christian shrine doing in such an unexpected place?
I'm in Megiddo, in northern Israel, where the final battle of Armageddon is expected to happen. For now, as you can see, it's pretty peaceful, pretty green, beautiful, but it's kind of like the calm before the storm.
When archaeologists began excavating, they discovered something incredible. On the floor was engraved Greek text, which immediately attracted the attention of experts. A few words, almost erased by time, turned the history of early Christianity upside down. Among the inscriptions was clearly distinguishable: God Jesus Christ. For scholars, this was a real sensation, one of the earliest written testimonies that followers of Jesus even then honored him as a divine being. But if Christians of that time had to hide from persecution, why was this place in the heart of a Roman military camp?
But instead of a storm, we're talking here about a battle that's been famous for thousands of years. This place, Tel Megiddo, has seen more action than a Hollywood movie. Think of it as the ultimate battlefield, where empires came to throw down Egyptians, Assyrians, you name an ancient empire, and they probably fought here.
The deeper researchers delved into the story of the find, the more questions it raised. The text mentions a woman named Archaeological who made a donation to the table of the God of Jesus Christ. Why is it a table and not an altar as in traditional Christian churches? Perhaps it was one of the first places of secret meetings of the followers of the new faith, a place where they performed their rituals, avoiding the attention of the authorities. But the most mysterious was another fact. The mosaic was found within a Roman military base. Historians have long believed that Roman legionaries remained loyal to the pagan gods of the empire, but one name in the inscriptions caused a shock to the researchers. It belonged to a Roman centurion named Gaius, who apparently funded the creation of this Christian place of worship. Was he a secret follower of Jesus? And if so, how many other Roman soldiers were already embracing the new faith at the risk of their own lives?
When is the exact date the Armageddon is supposed to take place? So I could mark it in my calendar, kind of get ready. And as it turns out, it's a bit of a secret. For folks who support Israel and follow the Bible, Megiddo isn't just an old pile of rocks. It's a sign of faith, a place where they believe history will meet the future in a big way. Megiddo is more than just ruins. It's a bridge between the past and a future event that has captured the attention of pretty much the entire world.
But the mysteries don't end there. The disappearance of this Christian center is also shrouded in mystery. Why did the early believers abandon the site? Was it crushed during the years of persecution, or was it abandoned after Christianity became the official religion of the empire? What happened to those who prayed here? And most importantly, what other secrets could this region be hiding? Now, nearly 2 millennia later, this place is once again the subject of heated debate. The oldest known Christian inscription found in Israel has been moved to the United States, to the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. But is this the right thing to do? Should this priceless artifact return to Israel? Or will its current location help thousands of people learn the truth about the early years of Christianity? This is a story that could change the way we think about the first centuries of the faith. A story that the sands of time have tried to hide, but which is now being revealed to the world. Megiddo is a place steeped in mystery and ancient prophecies. For centuries, this land has absorbed the blood of warriors, heard the cries of the vanquished, and kept the secrets of peoples who disappeared in the darkness of the ages. But no one could have predicted that one of the most significant Christian artifacts would be hidden under the concrete walls of a maximum security prison. It all started in 2005, when the Israeli correctional authorities decided to expand the compound. It was supposed to be standard construction, another reinforcement of the perimeter, the addition of new buildings for the detention of particularly dangerous prisoners. But from the first blow of the shovel, as workers began to dig deeper into the soil, it became clear that there was more than just rocks and sand hidden here. The soil, which should have yielded easily, suddenly began to change density and then showed traces of ancient masonry. At first it was mistaken for the remains of an old Roman road, a common find in the region. But then one of the workers, having caught a piece of earth with the point of a pick, found something strange under the layer of dust, a piece of stone with inlay. When it was carefully removed and wiped clean of dirt, it became obvious in front of them was part of a mosaic, old but incredibly detailed. By the time the archaeologists arrived, the earth had already begun to give away its secrets. Taking into account the importance of the find, construction was immediately suspended. The prison authorities resisted at first because the delay meant additional costs. But when the staff of the Israel Antiquities Authority, headed by Dr. Yotam Tia, arrived on the site and began to excavate, it became clear that this was not just another archaeological find, but something much more significant. Layer by layer, they freed the floor, which had been underground for some 1800 years. The first images that emerged from the ground puzzled the experts. The ornamentation was clearly Roman in style, but it did not contain pagan motifs, as was common in those days. Instead of hunting scenes or mythological creatures, the center of the composition was a simple but symbolically powerful drawing, two fish, skillfully laid out of multicolored stones. This symbol was familiar to scholars. Early Christians used it as a secret sign by which they recognized each other in times of persecution. Then the first inscription was found. The Greek letters folded into a meaningful text were awe-inspiring to the experts. The translation took several hours, and when the results were made public, no one could believe their eyes. There, on the floor of the ancient hall, the words God Jesus Christ were clearly readable. This meant that what they had in front of them was not just an ancient structure, but one of the oldest known places of Christian worship. But what was such a place doing in the Roman camp? After all, historians have always argued that in the I century AD Christianity, in these parts existed only in the underground. Its followers hid in the catacombs, fearing persecution. And here, in the very center of the military camp, there was a house where the followers of the forbidden faith prayed. How could this be possible? The clue came unexpectedly. In another part of the mosaic was found another inscription, which mentioned the name of Gannus, a Roman centurion. According to the text, he had donated funds to decorate this floor. This discovery overturned the traditional view of early Christianity. Up until this point, it had been thought that Roman legionaries had remained loyal to the old gods. But now it was apparent that some of them were secretly embracing the new faith at the risk of their lives. But if this place really served as a Christian church, why has it been forgotten? Where are those who prayed here? One theory has been that during the massive persecution launched by Emperor Diocletian, Christians were forced to flee, leaving the shrines behind. Perhaps the place was exposed and consigned to oblivion. Perhaps it was simply sealed so that no one could return. Some archaeologists have noticed a strange detail. On the mosaic floor there were knife-cut marks, as if someone in a rage had tried to destroy the images. Burnt fragments of stone were also found, which may indicate an arson attempt. Had the site been attacked? Or was it betrayed by its own, seeking to destroy all evidence in fear of the Roman authorities? There are no answers yet, but the fact remains that this is the oldest Christian inscription found in Israel. And while the place of discovery is unique in itself, the story of how this mosaic came to be under the prison block is even more amazing. Perhaps there are still mysteries waiting to be uncovered. When will the scientists continue their excavations? And what other evidence of the secret spread of Christianity among Roman soldiers might be hidden underground? But the most difficult question proved to be the future of the find. The mosaic was originally supposed to remain in place and protected, but it soon became clear that the prison could not afford to keep an archaeological site on its grounds. Therefore, in 2024, the mosaic was moved to the United States, to the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. This caused a wave of outrage among historians and believers who felt that such an important artifact should remain in Israel. However, the American side insisted, here the mosaic will be available to millions of people who will be able to touch the history of Christianity. Will this ancient floor remain in America, or will it one day return home? Perhaps the answer to that question will be a new chapter in the story of one of the most mysterious archaeological discoveries of our time. When archaeologists began to uncover the ancient mosaic floor hidden beneath the earth in Megiddo Prison, they discovered a picture that no one could have predicted. The interlocking patterns, the carefully laid fragments of stone, the delicate work of a craftsman who had lived nearly 2,000 years ago. But what mattered most was not the patterns themselves, but what was hidden between them. Opening layer after layer, the researchers discovered several inscriptions in Greek. They were well preserved, despite the centuries spent underground. And as they began to be translated, it became clear that this discovery would change the view of the history of early Christianity. At the center of the composition was a name, Archippus. Apparently, this was the person who made a significant contribution to the mosaic. The inscription stated that the God-loving Archippus donated a table to God Jesus Christ as a memorial. This phrase immediately caused a storm of controversy among scholars. The fact is that in early Christianity, the use of altars was not as widespread as in later centuries. Instead of the traditional altar on which sacrifices were made, Christians of the first centuries used ordinary tables. It was at these tables that they gathered to share bread and wine, remembering the Last Supper. Thus, this inscription confirmed that the place where the mosaic was found was used for Christian rituals long before the religion became official. But who was this Archippus? Why was her name among the first to be inscribed in history? Researchers have long tried to find references to this woman in other ancient texts, but no record of her seems to have survived. She may have been a wealthy woman connected to Roman aristocratic circles and may have secretly patronized the Christian community. There is a hypothesis that Archippus may have been the wife or daughter of one of the high-ranking Roman military officers who served in the camp. This would explain how a Christian shrine could exist right in a Roman fortress. However, it wasn't just the name Archippus that proved to be a mystery. Another part of the mosaic revealed an image of a fish, a symbol that early Christians used as a secret sign. It was not just an ornament, it contained a meaning only the initiated could understand. In times of persecution, Christians used the fish as a way of secret communication. If two strangers met, one could draw an arc in the sand. If the other drew the other half of the arc, creating the shape of a fish, it meant that he, too, was a follower of Christ. But the most intriguing thing was not the image, but the place where it was located. The fish was inscribed in a circle placed at the eastern end of the mosaic, directly opposite where the main entrance was apparently located. This meant that people entering the premises would immediately see this sign. Why would the early Christians have left such an obvious symbol of their faith at such a dangerous time? Perhaps it meant that at some point the persecution in the area had lessened and people were no longer afraid to openly express their religious affiliation. Further research led to another unexpected discovery. There was another name on the mosaic, Gannus, a Roman centurion who, according to the inscription, had contributed money to the creation of this mosaic. This was truly a shocking discovery. Centurions, the elite officers of the Roman army, were traditionally the bearers of state power and guardians of the Roman religion. Their loyalty to the empire was unconditional, and the idea that any of them could have financed the creation of a Christian place of worship seemed impossible. But if Gannus was indeed a centurion, it meant that Christianity had already penetrated the Roman army much more deeply than previously thought. Moreover, the very inscription that mentions him was done in an unusual way. Usually in Roman military buildings, all inscriptions were made according to a strict standard, with clearly decorated letters, often mentioning the merits of this or that legionary to the empire. Here, however, the style was different. It was simple, almost informal. This could mean that Gannus did not want this inscription to catch the eye of those who might denounce it to the authorities. But who was this Gannus? The name of such an officer has not been found in the Roman chronicles. He may have served in the VI Iron Legion, which was stationed at Megiddo during this period. However, it remains a mystery how he came to Christianity and why he chose to support its followers, knowing that it could have cost him his life. Was he a secret follower of the new faith, or did he simply sympathize with the Christians he saw around him? Some scholars speculate that this centurion may have been one of those who saw the execution of Christians during the period of mass persecution, and perhaps this is what made him think about the justice of Roman power. There is a theory that Gannus may have been the very Roman officer who once heard the words of a condemned Christian before his execution and, inspired by his courage, began searching for answers. But there is a darker explanation. What if Gannus was trying to use Christianity for his own ends? Perhaps he wasn't committed to a new religion, but only wanted to gain the support of the Christian community in his camp to strengthen his position. Ultimately, history doesn't give us definitive answers, but it's gaps like these that make these findings all the more exciting. Whether Gannus was a sincere Christian or simply a military man who chose to support the faith, his name will forever be part of this mosaic, and the discovery itself will turn historians' ideas about the spread of Christianity in the Roman Empire upside down. After all, if one centurion could invest in creating a place to worship Jesus Christ, How many more such stories remain hidden in the ruins of the ancient world? The fate of the mosaic is now the subject of heated debate. Some believe it should return to Israel, where it was found, to preserve historical justice. Others believe that in the United States it will be able to tell its story to millions of people who would otherwise never have known about it. The question remains, but one thing is certain: this find has already changed history, and its impact will be felt for years to come. When the inscriptions on the mosaic were translated and comprehended, the researchers realized that in front of them is not just an ancient floor, but a window into the past, which can fundamentally change the understanding of how Christianity spread in the Roman Empire. This floor, once hidden beneath a thickness of earth and concrete, bore evidence of a faith that existed in the most unexpected places, including inside Roman military camps. Despite the greatness of the find, however, it was a real headache for the administration of Megiddo Prison. The site of the mosaic was located directly under one of the areas designated for the expansion of the prison. It was a question of either continuing construction, backfilling the find and possibly destroying it, or recognizing that there was a historical treasure on the prison grounds that needed to be preserved. There were few options. Prison officials understood that if the story of the leak became public, there would be massive pressure from religious organizations, archaeologists and historians from around the world. On the other hand, it was impossible to demolish or relocate the prison. It was a strategically important object protected at the state level. While negotiations were going on in the offices, the situation in the prison itself was heating up. Rumors began to spread among the prisoners that there was a sacred place right under their feet. Some perceived it with indifference, while others, on the contrary, saw the discovery as a sign from above. One of the guards later told reporters that fierce discussions broke out among the prisoners. Some claimed that the mosaic was nothing but a sign of forgiveness, while others were convinced that the discovery was a portent of coming upheaval. At one point, some prisoners even declared that they wanted to participate in the excavations, which seemed absurd in a high-security environment. The leadership of the Israel Antiquities Authority offered its own solution to the problem: stop construction altogether, declare the area around the find a historical site, and conduct full-fledged research. However, this would have meant that the plan to expand the prison would have to be completely revised, which would have cost huge financial losses. A compromise was difficult to find. The authorities decided to temporarily suspend construction and allow the archaeologists to complete their work, but on the condition that the prison would then continue to function. Excavations continued for several months, under the supervision of scientists, and with the participation of carefully selected prisoners who were allowed to help clear the area. The archaeologists slowly freed the floor from the centuries-old layer of dust and stone. Those who took part in the work later said that they felt a strange sensation, as if they were touching something that had been forgotten but not lost. Some even claimed to have heard subtle voices during the work, as if the walls were whispering their own story to them. Of course, this could be written off as imagination, but the fact remained that the find had a deeper impact on people than the usual historical artifact. The more fragments of the mosaic were uncovered, the more it became clear that the site was not just used by Christians, but may have witnessed some of the most dramatic moments in their history. Signs of destruction were found, thin cracks in the floor that indicated possible earthquakes or deliberate damage. Traces of bonfires were also found. Perhaps someone had tried to destroy traces of the place, fearing the consequences. The scientists were particularly struck by the lack of traditional Christian imagery. No crosses, no scenes from the Bible, just the symbol of a fish and inscription speaking of faith. This led researchers to speculate that perhaps the site really did belong to an early period of Christianity, when, because of persecution, believers tried to avoid overt symbols that might give away their beliefs. Or it may have been a conscious attempt to avoid idolatry, which was a key theme in early Christian theology. When it became clear that the excavation had come to an end, the authorities faced a new question: what to do with the find? It was impossible to leave it on the territory of the prison. The security regime did not allow for regular excursions or organized research. The option of building a museum on this site also quickly fell away. No one was going to move the penitentiary. Then the only possible option was adopted: to carefully remove the mosaic and transport it to a safe place where it could be presented to the public. The decision to transfer the find to the United States came as a surprise. Not everyone was in agreement that such an important artifact would leave Israeli territory. Inside the country, a debate broke out. Some believed that the mosaic's presence in Washington would provide it with protection and the opportunity to become an object of study for millions of people, while others assured that the relic should remain where it was found. Transporting the artifact was an operation comparable in complexity to the transportation of jewelry. In order not to damage the mosaic, it was carefully removed with the help of modern technology, divided into several parts. Each fragment was packed in special containers with regulated temperature and humidity. Accompanied by specialists and security guards, the mosaic traveled to the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., where it was presented to the public for the first time in 2024. The response was instantaneous. Christians around the world saw the discovery as confirmation of the antiquity of their faith, and historians spoke of the need to revise some of the ideas about the spread of Christianity. However, the debate over where exactly the artifact should be located did not subside. Some even feared that the mosaic could disappear into private collections, as has already happened with other historical finds. Now, the fate of the artifact remains uncertain. Negotiations are underway about its possible return to Israel, but there is no final decision yet. Meanwhile, archaeologists continue to work in Megiddo, believing that the mosaic may be just part of a larger complex. Some are convinced that other structures may lie beneath the prison, perhaps even an entire ancient neighborhood where early Christians gathered to seek refuge. The story of the mosaic is far from complete. It has already changed perceptions of the first centuries of Christianity, and perhaps new discoveries lie ahead that will allow us to look at this period with even greater clarity. But the main question remains, will the artifact be returned to its homeland, or will it forever remain part of a foreign exhibition, becoming a reminder of how even the most important historical discoveries can be the subject of a struggle for ownership